That has a lot of good information, and there's others as well. Okay, just a preamble. Not everything is on the internet. So that's not the only way to research your family. Just some percentages here. Randy Seaver, who's a prolific blogger and also speaks at conferences, he has said that 5% of the world's genealogy content is on the web. I'm guessing that's a little high, but in any case. Now, a fellow from Google, Robert Gardner, has said that 5% of the internet's genealogy content is indexed by Google. So Google can access all of the genealogy content that is on the internet. And then what's going to show up on page 1 of your Google results? Not a lot, percentage-wise. Just for easy math, I'm going to use 1%. So 1% of 5% of 5% is that small number, 0.0025 of 1% of the world's genealogy content is going to show up on the first page. And that number is probably high, most likely. So there's a lot of information on the internet, but it's just a minor little portion of what's available in other resources. To continue the preamble, Google's not the only search engine. We'll be looking at some other search engines tonight. Also, search syntax is not the same for every search engine. So whatever engine, Google or Ancestry or Fulton History or whatever site you're using, it's good to learn as much as you can about how to search on that site. But they're all different. They've all been designed by different groups of people on different hardware platforms, on different software platforms, and they're all going to work differently. So if you learn one technique on Google, that's may not work on Ancestry. Okay. Also, anything said about the internet is almost immediately obsolete, and that's particularly true about Google. They are constantly modifying their algorithms to make the site better and more popular for everyone. So some of the things you'll see in here may turn out to be not accurate once you go to and try the things. There's some gray areas that I show here in the bottom, and we'll see more what that's about. Okay, how do search engines work? Search engines have software robots which crawl the web. Okay, they start at a website, and then they look that they record the keywords on that page and create an index, but they also look for links, and they take each link to another website, and they repeat. They do the same thing over there, and they keep doing that, and they create this huge index. So creating an index of their page that was crawled by their robots. So every word gets a pointer to a web page. And then Google and all of the other search engines have this analysis that they go through to rate the content. When you submit a search string, you're searching the index. You are not searching the internet. You're searching the index of the search engine that you're using, either the Google index or the Ancestry index or whatever. And once you do the search, Google and the other sites will rank the results based on how they perceive the importance of compared to what you're searching for. And then they display the results in an order, the most important on the first page, and less important items on subsequent pages. The next to bottom line there, Google rank emphasizes the number of incoming links. If you have website A and you have website B, and B believes that there's some important content on website A, so B creates a link for its readers to website A. So that's an incoming link to website A. Website A could have just that one incoming link. They could have thousands of incoming links, okay? And that's true of every website. Google feels that the most important websites are those that have the most incoming links. And those, Google is biased towards those sites when they give you the results of your search string. Now, as genealogists, we sometimes would be very interested in material that maybe a little historical society has, or an individual that has a website about their family. We'd like to see those things sometimes, but most likely those do not have a lot of sites that are linking to them. Those sites don't have a lot of incoming links. And so when the results are displayed, those sites are probably going to be on page 72 of your results. And we genealogists are desperate people, but we aren't that desperate to get to page 72. So that's just a little, Google doesn't really acknowledge that genealogists exist. So that's one problem. You can counter that by trying to make your search string very specific. But there's problems with that as well, as you may throw out the baby with the bathwater when you try to make it too specific. So it's all smoke and mirrors, maybe. This is what we're going to go over tonight. I want to talk about Google searches and how to do them, other Google tools that are relevant to genealogy, and some other search engines that are specific to genealogy. So we'll start with searching in Google. There's something called stop words, and I list a few of them, like a, of, the. They're the words that Google may ignore. So if you put them in your search string, it's like they weren't even there. Google will ignore them. Now, the second bullet, if you put the Republic of Ireland into the search string versus just Republic of Ireland, I have in the parentheses numbers. These are from a while back, but it gives you the relative idea. If Google really stuck to that rule of ignoring stop words, these two numbers would be the same. So Google keeps massaging its algorithms. They don't tell people how their algorithms work, because if they did, other search engines would copy their algorithms. So something's going on. I think maybe originally back in the day, Google would strictly ignore all of those stop words, but currently they don't really. It gives you different numbers of results, and the third bullet, contents of the first page are different depending on whether you have stop words or not. So the takeaway is try with and without stop words. You will get different results by doing that. Not that you need more work to do, but that's the way it is. Quotes are very important in Google and many other search engines. By putting double quotes around something, you're saying, I want to find the pages that have exactly the string that's inside those double quotes. Now, if I put Republic of Ireland inside double quotes, versus just plain Republic of Ireland with no quotes, you'll see those numbers are quite different. So putting the quotes around it will help you narrow in on something. The next bullet there shows you an exception. You're not always going to get exactly what you put in the quotes. If I put in Hogan John, Hogan space John quotes, I might get some results that have a string of characters that says Nick Hogan, comma, John Mayer, or Hulk Hogan, colon, John Graziano. Google ignores punctuation marks. So such things as commas, colons, periods, dashes, they're all ignored by Google. So the takeaway on this page is quotes are important and punctuation really is ignored by Google. Case. Case insensitive, even inside of quotes. Okay, so I show you here Republic of Ireland inside of quotes with lowercase versus Republic of Ireland inside of quotes, capitalizing the words, and it came out with exactly the same number of results. Same thing without the quotes. It's also case insensitive. Doing the same thing, lowercase versus capitalizing, gives you the same number, okay? So you never have to capitalize stuff in Google, with the possible exception of the Boolean command or. And versus and capitalized versus and lowercase. They're both currently ignored pretty much. And is no longer an official Google command. And capitalized is no longer an official Google command. Google will still and operate keywords in your search string, but it's implicit. Capitalized or versus little or. Little or is usually ignored because it's a stop word. Or in capital letters between keywords indicates pages must contain either one of the keywords. So A or B. One of those, at least one of those, has to be on a page in order for it to show up in your results. But that's only if you capitalize or. I have Hogan or Hagen. So I'd like results showing pages that have either one of those. So names with spelling variations, capitalized or is a way you can do that. Now let's say you forgot to capitalize OR. So you put in the little OR, okay? That's going to be ignored. So you've just converted that to an and, essentially. Hogan and Hagen. So only pages that have both Hogan and Hagen will show up in your results if you use the little OR. Order of keywords. In theory, and this is gray, in theory, the leftmost in your search string is considered the most important. An example of what you might put in is something like a surname, then a given name, then a place name. I did a trial one time of John Hogan versus Hogan John. Those are the numbers I've got. I'm not sure what that proves or disproves, whether more is better than less. But it was surprising to me that the one that began with John would have less results than the one beginning with Hogan. But the takeaway is try different order of keywords in your search string. You will get different results. Okay, there's something called stemming. We've all noticed, I'm sure, in your results in Google that you'll search on a certain word and there'll be variations of that word will show up in the results and will be bolded in your results. That's because of something called stemming. They at no extra charge, they will provide you with different variations. I give an example of running. Because of the stemming, you'll get running, you'll get run, runs, ran. You might search on a singular of a noun and you'll get results that show the plural of the noun and things like that. Okay, that's due to stemming. You can eliminate stemming. Sometimes you don't want that. And you can eliminate it by putting quotes around the word, double quotes around it. Then that says, don't give me the stemming. This is what I really want in my results. Minus sign removes pages from your results. So if we've got Hogan, minus Hulk, minus heroes, and you don't want a space between the minus sign and the other word, okay? So it's going to return pages that have Hogan on it. But if any of those pages have Hulk, they'll be eliminated. And any pages with Hogan and heroes will be eliminated from the results. I think we all at some point run into a surname that has a common meaning. This maybe can help you to some extent work your way out of that problem. Okay, wildcards. If I put John space Hogan inside of double quotes, it will not find John F. Hogan. It won't find John Francis Hogan. It won't find Hogan, comma, John. It just finds John space Hogan. Now, a great workaround is to use a wildcard in Google. John space asterisk space Hogan will find John and Hogan with a middle initial, with a middle name. So it represents one word. In Google, the wildcard is a whole word wildcard. It's not a partial. You can do partial wildcards in like family search. In Google, you cannot do partial word searches. And again, the asterisk must be surrounded by spaces. Okay? And that's particularly important. Often we searching on somebody and we want to allow for the fact that maybe he was listed with the middle name, but we don't know what the middle name is. We don't know what the middle initial is. This takes care of that. We don't have to worry about it. Now, you can put two asterisks and there's a space between those two asterisks. And that will mean that there will be two words in between John and Hogan. And there's a couple examples of how that could come out. John J. Jack Hogan, John Smith, comma, George Hogan. Okay, so the comma is ignored, and then there's two words in between John and Hogan. For even more fun, you can put in three asterisks separated by spaces, and then you'll get things like the examples there. Now this is in gray because I'm not sure they strictly follow this rule. Okay. But the John asterisk Hogan is very important and works very well. Once you get into the multiple asterisks, I'm not sure what Google's doing there. They don't seem to be consistent. The around command, this used to be an undocumented proximity feature. So if you say John around Hogan, and again, this has to be capitalized, it will find where John and Hogan are next to each other. But it can be both John Hogan or Hogan John. It will find either of those. You can also put a number in there. John around 20, put 20 in parentheses. There's no space between around and the open paren. And that will look for those terms within 20 words of each other. You can put any number, well, I don't know whether you can put any number in there, but you can put most any number that would be practical to use in those parentheses. So searching for names in Google, if you really want to find them all, you really need to do this first string. John Hogan in parens, in quotes, or capitalized, or John asterisk Hogan, or Hogan John. And that way you'll find just plain John Hogan, you'll find John with a middle name, and you'll find John Hogan in a directory style in some document where the last name is first, followed by the first name. And there's, you could add multiple asterisks. I don't really do that a lot, but you can do that. And typically you want to add, maybe you add a location to that or whatever works in your case, whatever you're looking for. A number range. So you can put 2 periods, and that's 2. It's not 3, it's not 1, it's 2 periods between 2 numbers. And Google will search for numbers in that range. So the first one, I have John Hogan in quotes. I'm also looking for the word born. Not sure that's always wise. And then 1850 through 1870 with 2 periods, no spaces around the periods. Now, those look like years to you and me. Google's not that smart. It just is a number to Google. It could be that on a certain page, there's 1,890 bushels of corn. It doesn't understand that we're looking for a year there. But it works pretty well to find things. I'm going to give a couple other variations of using that. But again, it's 2 dots with no spaces around it. These are just some other examples of birth, marriage, and death. You might try using something similar to this. But you can make up, it depends on what you're looking for. Now, I have like was born. That's very specific. That has to be in the source document. And maybe a source document won't have that, but that might meet the other criteria. So that would eliminate some pages. So you have to be careful. These may help you, they may not. Other search suggestions, you can try obituary or cemetery, will. And then the bottom one is where I use all 3 forms of the name for Google. State searches. So in 1963, in the US, we started using a 2-letter abbreviation for states. And there's a link there, and that gives you the whole list of the United States and their abbreviations. 2-letter plus the old style. See, for Michigan, the old style abbreviation was MICH period. Okay. So this link gives you the current abbreviations and the old style abbreviations. Since we're typically looking for older information, it may behoove us to use the old form of the state abbreviation. So what's the takeaway? The next slide I'll show you, I did a very unscientific study, but essentially the safest technique for searching on a state is to use all three forms of the state: the full state name, the abbreviation, the two-letter abbreviation, and then the old style abbreviation. Here's what I tried. I put into Google MI and then looked at my results. And I got results with MI and I got results with Michigan. If I spell out Michigan in my Google search, I get Michigan, but I don't get any MIs and I don't get any MICHs. If I put MICH in there, I get MICHs and also Michigan spelled out. So I guess the bottom line is it's best to be safe and use all three forms when you're looking for states. Compound clauses. So you can create compound clauses up to 32 keywords. They're evaluated from the left to the right. And it used to be clearer. The parentheses used to have functionality. And apparently now they don't. So I'm sort of in a confused state as to what the results are actually going to be. So if you're going to use compound clauses, just be careful. You might want to do a little test and make sure that the results are turning out to be what you think it's going to be. On that bottom line, without the parens, so John or John J or John James, Hogan, or is it going to give me any page with Hagen? Is it going to ignore all the first names and associate with Hagen? It's not totally clear. And I'm not sure that Google is totally consistent on this as well. There's a command cite : this is a wonderful command. It enables a Google search of just one site. So if there's a specific site you want to look at and search for certain things, you can do that with this. The second bullet, I have an example: cite : and then a website. And this is for Saratoga, New York, GenWeb. Okay. Notice there are no blanks before or after the colon of site. Okay. And then you put in, I put in Hogan. So search for Hogan on just that website. Okay. It's very useful with Gen websites. Gen websites, if you're familiar with them, they have wonderful content. It's all user supplied. I think we've sort of gotten away from going to Gen Web, but there's still wonderful content on many of the sites. And also, many of them, they have a search box, but it's sometimes their search box doesn't work or doesn't work very well. You might also try this site. This might do a better job of searching that website than the search box that's actually on the site. The next bullet, I have using this on Fulton history. And the cite clause, you know, this one I did the first, it was the first part of the search string. Here it's the latter part of the search string. It works both ways. So I'm searching for John Hogan 3 ways, and I'm only looking at fultonhistory.com. fultonhistory.com. So this is a quick and dirty way to search Fulton history site. There's a lot of other features. You're doing a Google search, so only Google commands will work on this search string in Google. So you can't do some of the Fulton history kinds of things like fuzzy searching and the like. Another thing I'll mention is I mentioned that the fellow from Google said that not very much of the Google content on the internet actually makes it into the Google index. And the main reason for that is that sites that have a search box, like say Ancestry or Family Search or Fulton History, all of those sites have a search box. The Google robots do not function with a search box. They can't, what are you going to put in the search box? A million different terms? It just doesn't work. So in theory, Google should not be able to search Fulton History, but apparently there's been some handshaking done between Fulton History and Google so that there is Fulton History content available in the Google index. I don't know how up to date that is, but I use it once in a while and it seems fairly good. But in any case, site : can be used with most any website, and it's very effective. It also shows that you can eliminate websites. Like maybe you're searching something and you have a website, so you know what's on your website. You don't want to be searching that. You want to see what else is out there. You could say -site : and then give your URL and to eliminate that. Also site : gov or other extensions, but if you use gov, it's going to search only sites whose extension is gov. Okay? So that's site, S-I-T-E : no spaces. There's a file type or extension command. It searches for files of a certain type. When I say genealogy space file type : XLS, I'm searching for the term genealogy in spreadsheets. And the next one, you can eliminate certain types. If I'm looking for genealogy, but I don't want PDFs for some reason, I can say minus that type. And the last one, I think is pretty interesting. You could search for GED files, GEDCOM files, which are files that are generated by genealogy database sites. So I could search for Hogan in GEDCOM files on the internet. That's what that last command is doing.
So Dennis, the EXT, the EXT is the same thing, or?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's all right. I haven't played with it, but the way it was presented, I believe they both do the same thing.
Interchangeable. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I think it's standing for extension.
Mm-hmm.
You can use the Google search box as a calculator. This shows if you got a year and an age, you can figure out what year they were born. You can do much more complicated calculations. So you just put that in the search box. The last link there, Search for Ancestors, has many other calculators, more sophisticated than what you can do in the Google box. We've all seen headstones where it gives the death date, and then the age of the person was so many years, months, and days. So there's calculators, you can just put those into the calculator and it will give you the calculated birth date. So that's a very useful link there, hopefully. You can search for hashtags if you'd like, see what you get there. Probably not a lot of historical information, maybe, but in any case. There's a Google Advanced Search. So if you don't want to play with all of the different commands and things, you can go to this link, and it's just kind of like a fill-in thing, but it gives you a lot of options, simple ones and complicated ones, but it's pretty easy to use. So you might want to check that out. Okay, part 2, we'll look at other Google tools that can be relevant for genealogy. One of the things that Google has tried to do, although it's sort of a work in progress, is that a search string that you would use in the general Google search box could also be used in their other tools. For example, Google Books is an excellent resource for genealogists. You can pretty much use any search string that you could use in the normal Google search in Google Books. And their goal is to make it that way in all of their tools. So some it works pretty well and some maybe not so much. In Google Books, hopefully you've seen that. They've got millions of books, and there's different variations on what they provide. The second bullet lists full view, limited preview, snippet view, no preview. If it's full view, you can download that complete document in a PDF for free. Okay, it's a great thing. So Google Books is a wonderful resource. Google has a local bias. So it depending on what website you enter Google with, they believe you're most interested in a certain country. For example, google.com, which is what most of us enter Google with, they assume that we're interested in US related information. But you could do, I have there the google.ie for Ireland. If you bring up google.ie, it assumes that you're interested in Irish related things. And you will see those things earlier than you would if you use, you can always use google.com for any country, okay? You can find Irish things in there, there's no problem. But if you use the website, the version of the Google specific to the country that you're interested in, you're probably going to see more relevant things of interest to you. So there's hundreds of countries that they have a specific location Google site. And to figure out what those are, the last bullet there, to see the other websites, you, in the Google search box, you put Google space and the name of the country. And the first result is the link, like in this case, Google Ireland. The first result is the link for google.ie. So whatever country you're interested in, you can get the Google specific site for that country. Google has many language tools. If you want to search for a country in a language other than, say, English, you can do that. And you can go to this Google site, Preferences and Languages, select a language, and you can put in your search term, it will search, and it will give you your results in that other language. You can also translate text. If you see a paragraph or a sentence in some language that you do not understand, you can cut and paste that and then paste it into the Translate Google, and it will, you can tell it specifically what language it is and what language you want it translated to, or you can let Google detect what language it is, and they will translate it. You can also click on a button and have it speak the result to you. You can also translate websites. If you happen across a website in a foreign language, you can put the URL in the text box at translate.google, and it will translate the web page for you. There's also a translate app. I have not used that, but apparently it's available for your smartphone, and it says instant translation. I'm not sure what that means. I have not used them. But Google has many language tools, and they work pretty well, pretty well. It's still software. It's not perfect, but it does a pretty good job. Google Alerts. So you can put in a search string into an alert, and it will query its index and give you results. It's very easy to do. Just go to this website and it leads you through. Now the results don't include any sponsor links or spam, but this is really what I think is best about alerts. I like alerts. You can pick a frequency like once a day, once a week. If you're searching on John Smith, you probably don't want to do once a day, or maybe you do. But you can pick your frequency. So let's say we've picked once a day frequency. The results that you get are just what has been added to the Google index since the previous day. So it's new stuff. It's not cumulative, which can be really helpful. So that's Google Alerts. Google Maps, it's a great tool. You can just put in an address or just a city in a state or country into the Google search box, and you'll be able to access a map. You can click on the map and it will enlarge it. And a great feature of that is Street View. If you haven't played with Street View, take a shot at it. There's a little funny looking guy down in the lower right-hand corner, and you can drag that over onto the map, and it shows you what streets have been photographed by Street View. And then you can click on it, and it will take you into Street View, and you can literally walk yourself down a street. And many foreign countries, including and the US, have been photographed for Street View. I don't know if I saw the Google car one time, the Google Maps car one time in Corning, New York. And it's just a little bug of a car, but on top, it's got this big dome. And there's 4 cameras in there. So they get four views, front and back, right and left. And then they bring that all together and provide that information. You can search in Google Maps. You can search for things like Catholic churches, cemeteries, restaurants, hotels. These are not all inclusive. It's based on somebody has entered those locations into Google. And you can enter locations into Google and businesses and things like that. But it can be helpful for like churches and cemeteries. And I do, on my website, there is a handout that I have for Google Maps that you might want to look at if you're interested in Google Maps. Google Earth. This is a wonderful, this is actually an application that you download and install on your computer. It also accesses the internet, but you need to install it. It's free. The fourth bullet there mentions the Rumsey historical maps. You can overlay the current view of a location with a historic map. Rumsey Historic Maps has a lot of historic maps. You might have an old map. If you've got an image, a digital image of that map, you can overlay it over the current stuff, and you can go in and out of those views to compare the historic versus the current. Lisa Louise Cook mentioned her book before. She's very knowledgeable about Google Earth. And in fact, she has 2 DVDs specifically on Google Earth. I also have a handout on my website using Google Earth. Google Images. There's many, many images in Google. And you can search on images. There's an image, there's different tools up at the top of the Google's search screen, and you can click on images and you can put in different searches. Here's a couple. Rochester, New York, vintage will give you old views of Rochester, New York. Or you could do vintage postcards of Rochester, New York, and it'll bring those up to you. In the Google Images search box, off on the right is an icon that looks like a little camera. You can click on that and you can upload a digital image of a person or of a building or a horse, whatever you'd like to do. And Google will do a search of its images and display similar images to the one that you upload. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you did that for Great Uncle Tom and somebody else has the image of Great Uncle Tom? I've played, especially with buildings, I've played with it and found some very good results from doing that. So that's inside the search box on Google Images. On the right side of the search box is a camera icon. And if nothing else, it's fun to play with. There's also other search tools in there. You can choose black and white, which would give you old photos. If you select line drawings, you'll probably mostly get maps, which can be a good thing. So that's Google Images. Gmail, which is Google Mail. It's a free email service. The second bullet there, this is just to get on my soapbox for a minute. I think for genealogy purposes, you should use a permanent email address. And that's in quotes because what really is permanent in web terminology. But if you're using like an ISP, your internet service provider, Roadrunner or AOL email, at some point you're going to change your ISP or they're going to get gobbled up by another company. Also, you may change your employer or some other. Don't use a temporary website because that's why when you go to make a contact with somebody, you often cannot contact them because the website is no good anymore. So Google Gmail is a great tool and it's going to be around for a while. It's free and it takes about 10 seconds to sign up for an account. So highly recommend that. Part 3, other search engines relevant for genealogy. There's something called the Easy Genealogy Google Searcher. You might take a look at it. This is another fill in the blank kind of thing. So you don't have to know 20 different Google commands. You fill in the blank and get your results. So you may want to take a look at that. Here's some other, the 15 most popular search engines. Google obviously is the most popular one, but there are many other search engines, and that gives you a list of them. I'm going to mention some of those in a couple of seconds here. So meta search engines are search engines that search multiple indexes. They use multiple search engines and provide you the results. Dogpile.com searches several. There's a site, yippee.com, searches several sites. Copernic used to have a free version. It no longer is free. I think the cheapest version is about $15 per year, which isn't too bad. But it's known for serious deep digging. And what that means is it will go deeper into the files on the internet than a typical search engine would do. The last bullet there, start page, is touted as the world's most private search engine. So some of us are a little concerned about Google. I mean, you search for a lawnmower on Tuesday, and then you go into Google on Thursday, and all the ads are for lawnmowers. So it makes you wonder about privacy concerns. If you're concerned with that, there are anonymous search engines. One of the best is DuckDuckGo. It searches anonymously. So none of your information is going to go to any of the links that you click on. And the third bullet is really important. The results are not based on your past search history. So I mentioned the lawnmower showing up. Google, Bing, Yahoo, they learn as you search. And then when you search for something new, they try to tailor the results to what they've seen you request before. Okay, that may be good. It may not be so good. So DuckDuckGo, you've got a clean slate every time you go in to search. Okay, it runs its own search against its own index, as well as 100 other search engines. It does a very thorough search for you. So DuckDuckGo, I think, is worth a look at. Other search engines providing search privacy, I mentioned startpage.com would be worth taking a look at. And also, I believe most of the common browsers today have an option to let you use a private mode. So whatever browser you use, you can find it, and the commands are there. If you search on, say you use Firefox, if you search on Firefox private mode, it will give you the instructions of how to go into Firefox and select the private mode in Firefox. Okay, so that's anonymous searching.
We get
Okay.
somebody
Yes?
mentioned that you can use private mode on your smartphone too.
Right, thank you. Yep. Here's some genealogy specific search engines. Genealogy in Time has all kinds of resources. Those others are great. The last one on the page, I would definitely take a look at. You'll be blown away by all of the content and the links that are in that site. It's pretty amazing. So those are all specific to genealogy. This is vaguely related to searching, hinting from online trees. So rather than you doing a search, the hinting goes the other way. It comes from trees to you if you set it up. All of the 4 major online trees provide hinting. And just if you happen to use Roots Magic, or you would like to try Roots Magic, if you don't use Roots Magic, you have to go to each one of these sites and collect your hints. If you have Roots Magic, you can set up so that all of the hints come into Roots Magic. So Uncle Joe Hogan will show up with a little light bulb when there's hints for him. And it could be for any or all of those 4 sites, and it's right there. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to go out there and search. I don't have to go to individual websites. It all comes to me inside of Roots Magic. So a possible strategy for searching might be to use both automatic and manual searching. Automatic meaning search less. You aren't actually doing a search. So one way is to use Google Alert. Put your search strings into Google Alert. You could have multiple Google Alerts. And also you could set up and use hinting from online family trees. I know there's bad data in some of the online family trees. So the important thing is the word hint. Just treat it as a hint that maybe you can track down sources to solidify those hints. On manual searching, you use Family Search, it's free. You can use any of the subscription sites that you want to pay for, or use them at your friendly local libraries or family history centers. Google is a great one, or some meta search tools you might try out, particularly DuckDuckGo. And happy hunting. So I don't know if there are any questions.
I haven't had really any questions along the way, just some comments. This is great, thank you. What a great program. Fantastic program, thanks, Dennis. So I did mention in the chat, if you didn't see it, I will send the link to Dennis's website and point you in the direction of the slides from tonight, so you can get it. You'll be able to get a copy of that. I do send out a follow-up email after the program, probably I'm going to say like early next week, if you give me a chance. And then I did record this, so we're going to put it up on our YouTube channel for the library as well. I can send you a link for that.
Good.
Yeah, really informative, includes things I haven't heard before. Great presentation. And even if you've heard some of this information before, it's always good to hear it again, because you may have forgotten about it. And then, so I think it was awesome. And thank you very much, Dennis.
Sure.
Anybody have any questions? Oh, somebody said, thank you very much. I will now be up past midnight. All right. If there aren't any other questions, I'll just leave this open if anybody wants to leave a few messages on the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you for everybody that came tonight. I always appreciate the attendance. Hopefully it was beneficial for you. And I will be putting information out about next month. We're still taking things kind of month at a time. So my inclination is it's going to be another Zoom presentation, but I'll let you know for sure on that one. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
And have a good night, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.